Okay, guys, it is time to answer the questions that you have sent to me. Since I have received so many questions that I want to answer, I will be splitting this video up into several parts. So if you still have a question, please leave a comment in the other video. I'll have a link in the description to that, because I will not be reading the comments to this video for questions. So I'm doing these just in chronological order, and I apologize if I don't answer your question. So the first one is from It's Hogs, and he says, "How much security do you use to make sure your own computer/internet isn't breached? Wireshark, antivirus software, etc." And I don't really use a lot of any of that, really. For network protection, generally the router that you get from your ISP has good enough firewall on it to block pretty much any kind of network attack, except for like denial of service, but that's to be expected. I don't use an antivirus. I just have Malwarebytes Pro running, and that's pretty much how I've been for the past couple of years now. Next question is from NSM0220, and he says, "Do you use Hitman Pro to remove fake AVs and ransomware?" Generally no, but I would use it if Malwarebytes didn't work. Next question is from A5E26, and he says, "What is your favorite song?" Well, that's easy. It's Yol Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack. Well, maybe not. It just really depends on what kind of mood I'm in. I don't think I really have a favorite song from any band, so if I had to pick one song, I'd probably go with Yol Cowards by Viper. True Master Live asks, "When will you prank call another one of those computer tech support scams?" I don't really think I need to do this again. I think, in terms of calling the fake tech supports, we did pretty much everything we could. The first video was just messing with them, and then the Amped 1 video, we had like Gruul running or something. It was great. And I think we pretty much covered everything you can cover with these people. Kuhn Libertad asks, "How many computers do you own, and what are the tech specs for those computers? Greetings from Mexico." Well, currently I have 5 computers that I use pretty much all the time. I'm sure there's some broken down or whatever miscellaneous computers, but these are the 5 that I use. So the main desktop is a 2011 build, has a i5 2500K overclocked. It has a Crucial M4 128 gigabyte solid state drive, 500 gigabyte hard drive, a Sapphire ATI 7770, and it has Windows 7. The laptop I'm currently using is a ThinkPad T400. Has some Core 2 Duo in it, 8 gigs of RAM, 64 gigabyte solid state drive. I think it's Kingston or some crap. It has the 14-inch display, Windows 7. The computer that I've been using for most of the videos recently is a Lenovo ThinkCentre M58P, and this has a Core 2 Duo, 4 gigs of RAM, and it has this really crappy OCZ Vertex 32 gig solid state drive. It's garbage, so that's why it's in the testing computer. My web server right now is a 2012 build, has an AMD FX 8120, 8-core CPU, whatever. Has 8 gigs of RAM, 500 gigabyte hard drive. I'm using Debian Linux on it. And fun fact, this was actually the build that DanoWalked1 used for his website. And once that went down, I went ahead and just bought it off of him. So, kind of interesting. And my file server right now is a 2012 build. Has an Athlon 2X2 260, like the cheapest dual core that they had. 8 gigs of RAM. I have 5 1 terabyte hard drives in a RAID 5 array, and that's running Server 2008 R2. So that's pretty nice for storing pirated movies and whatnot. And let's move on to the next question from Kippy Kip, and he says, "Do you get pissed off when you install something and forgot to choose custom installation, which only lets you deselect my web search?" Yes, I do. Well, actually, I don't really remember any software that does things like that, where you go to custom or something and deselect all that crap. But what really pisses me off more is when programs like that I actually like Image Burn or something that comes bundled with this garbage. Hate that shit. Jason Wilson asks, what is your all-time favorite piece of malware? And that's really hard to answer. But a few have caught my attention for different reasons. And if you ever ask DanoWalked1 what the hardest piece of malware to run is, he would say Magister Worm for Win32. A totally unique composition. It does a lot of different things. It's way ahead of its time. Written in assembly, but it's like 32K, which is a massive for any kind of assembly program. Another interesting thing was the Sasser and Blasterworm competition in the early 2000s, and how quickly they would be able to propagate from network to network. Also liked the Windows Metafile exploit in 2005. This was insane. Basically, you would just view an image in either your browser or like Windows Explorer, and it would run whatever arbitrary code. So it was absolutely ridiculous, and it affected every single version of Windows. So I would consider those to be my favorite malware exploit whatevers. Vivo71 asks, not really anything for the video, but is there a chance you could do a video on Uniblue? It was something that got me about 2 years ago, unless it's actually legit, because I have no clue how I got it back then. I will do a video about this, and there's a ton of these semi-legitimate adware programs. They get advertised on TV a lot, too. You would think, like, what's that, like Finally Fast? That shit? It's sort of like that. So I'll do a video on that eventually. EXWatt1337 asks, where and how did you come up with an idea to make videos about viruses? This came about probably around 2008, early 2009. I got really into watching like those old On Neutral in action videos. And this was probably around the end of the Vundu Trojan and it dropping rogues. There weren't very many people making videos about these fake antiviruses, and there were a lot of different ones, and, you know, I kind of wanted to make videos, so I figured I would do something about that. And that started around 2009. Hellfire asks, Malwarebytes anti-exploit? Any chance you could show that off or demonstrate it? Sure. Bear asks, how do you feel about Microsoft not including Solitaire and Minesweeper in Windows 8? I'm pretty bummed. I say they fucked up majorly with this move. I'd never really learned to play Minesweeper, so I don't really miss it. But here's the worst thing about what Microsoft did with Solitaire. Not only did they not include it, but they made it like a downloadable thing from the App Store or whatever. But they made the version of it like extremely shitty. Like, it is totally bloated, and it even lags. Like, how does Solitaire lag? It doesn't make any sense, and I hate it. And I hate Windows 8 for that. And I will never use Windows 8 for that. Seth Savage asks, what was the first computer you ever used? I don't really remember the model, but I know it was a Packard Bell desktop, probably from around 1996 or 1997. Windows 95 on it. It was a pretty sweet computer. I don't remember it really being a very good gaming computer, but I'm sure you could throw some Voodoo card in there or some shit, and it would be pretty great. Of course, it got thrown away like, you know, every other old computer somebody had from back in the day. Kind of unfortunate. Mr. Knife 666 asks, what is the most annoying thing in all of Windows? Oh, there's plenty of annoying things about it. You know, zero drivers. You can never find any drivers. All the software is this like, half-assed garbage. There's no official support from the manufacturer. You get an update sometimes and it'll just break your entire system and you gotta like fix it. Even battery life on mobile computers, you know, laptops and stuff, it's actually worse than the other in my experience. Oh, you meant Windows. Oh, I thought you meant Linux. Really, there's not too many annoying things. Maybe I've just used it enough to where it just kind of all works. If you mean like Windows 8, I would probably say the most annoying thing is having advertisements in the operating system. That sucks. But if I had to pick one thing that kind of encompassed all versions of Windows, I would say like Windows Update and XP and updating .NET. Because back in the day with XP, well, back in the day, it was only like 12 years ago when it came out. But anyway, Windows Update with XP and also Windows 98 SE and Windows ME, it was just like a website. So you would go to like update.microsoft.com and download all this shit. So it required you to use IE, which is always great. And I guess the other thing would be updating .NET. And this is mainly on like a new install of Windows. If you go to try to update .NET, it'll just... You can't update both .NET and something else in Windows. It's got to be separate, and it takes up time. Easton Kelly asked, "Is your body ready?" And it's a link to a video of Reginald's Body is Ready Extended. My answer to this is, I prefer the video When I'm the Reginator, and I'll have a link to that. SuperBen3532 asks, "What is your favorite, most interesting piece of malware that was released in 2013? And this one's pretty easy for me, and I'll say it is CryptoLocker. And I have a few reasons for this. For one, it pretty much combined a lot of different concepts into something that should have really already existed. You start with really strong cryptography, then you have like email propagation and infected websites, things like that. You're asking for money not only with the MoneyPack money laundering system, but also through Bitcoin. And of course, when I made the video, Bitcoin was at like $300 or something. And of course, it's tripled since then. So they were very forward thinking in accepting Bitcoin. Unfortunately, this was the most finicky friggin' malware ever, and it took like 2 months to get a video out. And I was dying to make a video about it for 2 months. It really sucked. But that would be my most interesting piece. Edison700 asked, "How did this hobby of yours start, and do you have any other hobbies or collections of things? What are your thoughts on Windows 9? Would you ever consider doing an hilariously smart-ass commentary on something else like film or video games similar to MST3K?" Let's see, how did it start? Well, I kind of already talked about that earlier. Just, wanted to make videos about some things that not a lot of people were making videos about very well. I kind of wanted to have the same format as On Neutral, but be doing fake antiviruses, because that was the interesting thing at the time. And hobby? Well, really, my only other hobby right now is gun collecting. If you know anything about gun collecting, it is a gigantic money pit, and right now I don't have a ton invested, so really my collection's limited to like Russian and Chinese military surplus guns right now, but yeah, that'll be growing in the future once the income grows in the future. Can't really do anything with a video on that at the moment, but I don't think anybody on this, or anybody subscribed to me, really cares about gun videos, so unless if you wanted to see that, I'd probably just hold off. Thoughts on Windows 9? I've heard that it's supposed to throw back to Windows 7 a little bit. It's supposed to give you the start menu back and all these different things. So that's nice. I haven't upgraded to Windows 8.1, and I don't think I'll be upgrading to Windows 9, at least until, 2018, when Windows 7 support expires. And, let's see. Do I want to do something similar to MST3K? This is really funny. Okay, so, of course, DanoWalk1 and I have discussed this plenty of times before, but here's the big problem, because we already kind of do this, but we use way, way too many inside jokes. you would have to basically understand and have seen everything that we've watched. So you'd have to watch like every Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, every Ventrilo harassment, every just obscure video, maybe not so obscure, but you would have to understand all these jokes. And honestly, this is how I've always watched movies. Like, even before I had ever heard of Mystery Science Theater, I always did, like, peanut gallery shit with friends. It was really funny. And then when I found out about this show, it was like they made a documentary about how I watch movies. So it's pretty great. But, unfortunately, the format, I don't think it'll work simply because of the inside jokes. Bill O'Reilly himself asks, what's your favorite video game? Well, I'm not really sure about favorite video game. The one I played most growing up was probably, get this, Driver 2 on the PlayStation. And nowadays it's considered like a really shitty game compared to like Grand Theft Auto or something, but I thought it was really fun. It's kind of little bit of an open world thing. You just drive around Chicago and get in cop chases. It was pretty great. Nowadays, I'd probably say favorite game is Battlefield 1942, if you can call that nowadays, but it's one of the most absurd games ever made. You can play it any style that you want. The physics engine is completely broken, so it's always hilarious, and you find something new in Battlefield 1942 every time you play it. It's fantastic. Ruby asked, what kind of video games do you play? I don't really play a lot of video games nowadays. Really the only game I play consistently is Sid Meier's Civilization 5. Even though Civ 5 is considered one of those games you just play while you're doing other things. Like, you know, nobody ever sits down and just plays Civ. You're doing something else, browsing the internet, whatever. It takes up a hell of a lot of time, and I've pretty much bought all the expansions, so it's extended the gameplay very much so. MRK23 asks, what are one of the most nastiest and funniest rogues you've ever seen? Greetings from Holland. The nastiest and funniest would probably be this ransomware Trojan thing that pops up gay porn. It's pretty funny, but here's the funniest part about it. I think most people here know who Marizos is. He does antivirus reviews. And a few years ago, he was testing something. I don't remember what it was, but it was some antivirus, and it allowed one of these gay Trojans to run, and he said he was going to censor it, but of course he forgot to do it. And it was only up for about 10 seconds, I think, but YouTube, of course, makes that the thumbnail for the video, so it was in everybody's subscription boxes, gay porn, like, right there. It was hilarious. It was one of the greatest things that ever happened on YouTube. Nintendo 16 Kid asked, how much money have you spent on computers in the last few years? If you're talking about just from 2011, because that's probably actually the oldest computer I have that I use consistently, probably in between upgrades and whatnot, probably around like $1,800 to $2,000. And I think that's a pretty conservative estimate. Most people will spend money on their hobbies, so I don't think that's an exorbitant amount of money, especially over 3-4 years. Metal Boy SK1 asked, how and when did you meet Dan? Of course, he's talking about Dan Walked 1. Sometime around 2009. We were probably both fans of each other's videos, and it just kind of went from there. The Nameless They asked, how do you like your eggs cooked? That's easy. Pretty much every way. Fried, scrambled, boiled, deviled. Every way except where, like, you fry it and the yolk is all raw and uncooked. That just sucks. Every other way is great. Nerdboy100 asks, what is the most threats you have ever seen in Malwarebytes? I think I've only seen those like once or twice, but you can recreate it by installing certain kinds of adware, because the adware will drop just thousands and thousands of files. So, yeah, you could get like 10, 20, 30,000 detections pretty easily with certain adware. Classic Macintosh asks, have you ever been infected with a virus before? No, not a virus as far as I know, but I believe I had the Vundu Trojan from back in the day, and that's probably where the fascination with fake antiviruses began. Max Payne asks, which virus, in your opinion, is the most dangerous at the moment? And I would think it would be the banking Trojans right now. There's a lot of them, and I don't really make videos about them because they don't really do anything visual, but they will steal banking credentials, credit card information, and they could really jack up somebody's life. So, really, I would say that's the most dangerous thing. Have you ever squished your butt up against a mirror? Asked, do you like furry porn? No. Gurkus MC asked how to get rid of JRAT. Well, I don't know what JRAT is, so I had to look it up. Apparently it's some kind of remote access tool in Java. So, probably just reinstall Windows and don't install Java. Asshat McGee asks, is Gangsta Life good? Yes. Sir Nagar asks, what's your favorite porn virus? Well, I'll say it's Navishield because for some reason it thinks that like Match.com is some XXX porno site. The Minthrux asks, funniest moment related to antiviruses or viruses? Well, that's easy. That would be Marizos' gay porn thumbnail. And I don't hate Marizos. I think he's great. I just think that was really funny. Lunar Needle asks, what virus sticks out to you as being most cleverly designed and programmed for its time? On the contrary, what virus sticks out for its terrible coding and glitchy nature? I don't really know much about viruses. I don't know, I'm sorry. But I guess you would say Magister. Hopefully Dan, makes a video about Magister because it would be amazing. But I would say the most glitchy malware is actually the Sasser worm because it was never intended to crash lsass.exe and restart the computer all the time. That was the giveaway for having the Sasser worm. It was supposed to just spread. So that's one of the most famous glitches in malware. And that will wrap up part 1 for this video. Hopefully I'll answer another 30 probably sometime next week. If you have any more questions, please leave a comment in the other video. I will not be looking for questions in this video. So thank you all very much for watching and stay tuned.